This Bigfoot sighting happened a few years after the eruption. Perhaps the Bigfoot searching for new territories, a little bit displaced, a little bit upset, made an aggressive encounter. Kelly H. writes RMSO. I grew up near Mount St. Helens, and several years after the eruption, we camped with horses on the south side of the mountain up the hill from the Ape Caves. Two friends and I had our tents and our own horses, and yes, we each had firearms. Not too long after we all secured the horses for the night and retired to our individual tents, we had went to sleep when all hell broke loose. Multiple Bigfoot had surrounded our camp and were screaming, grunting, and growling louder than you could imagine. There were at least 4 or 5. I grabbed my 44 and sat up just outside my tent expecting an attack when I noticed the other two friends doing the same thing. Fortunately, we never had to shoot, but they weren't 20 feet from us. Then one screamed. Sounded kind of like an air raid siren for a seemingly long time. When it was done, they moved on grunting and growling, scaring the crap out of us. I figured the tied horses would be gone, but to my amazement, they were still there shaking like they were terrified. I hunted this mountain all my life, as did my friends, and they weren't bears, weren't elk bugling, or any known game animal. That's not the only experience, but it was the scariest. RMSL responds. Did any of you get a good look at any of the Bigfoot surrounding your camp and vocalizing? Kelly H. continues. Just shadows and blurred movement. It was dark and I was already asleep prior to this. I saw brief flashes of them before in other encounters. One jumped across the trail in front of me from one fairly high bank to the other side without touching the trail. This experience, however, seemed the most threatening or aggressive. Appreciate the additional details. Reminds me of the nearby volcano Mount Adams. A woman had a sighting. She saw the creature moving lightning fast, crossing the trail too. Interesting. Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. We are searching for Bigfoot near Mount St. Helens volcano in Washington because of a long history of Bigfoot sightings in this area. Some recent and some long ago. This volcano erupted May 18th, 1980. During and after the eruption, there were dozens and dozens of Bigfoot sightings reported. More than likely because the Sasquatch were fleeing the disaster, and for many years later, some Bigfoot were displaced and searching for new homes and territories. We would like to show you around the area as we give some of the reports from back then that motivate us to come into the area to search for this elusive giant. Carl writes RMSO. He's writing anonymously for his brother. My older brother lived in the Mount St. Helens area, very close to the volcano. Years back, when the volcano erupted, my brother and his family had to evacuate in the middle of it all. There was smoke everywhere, and as they were driving quickly down the mountain, my brother saw a Bigfoot run down from the side of the mountain and almost run into the back of his car. The Bigfoot stopped in the center divide, and cars were beeping their horns at it as they drove by. Then my brother and his wife and kids watched it as my brother stopped his car. They witnessed the Bigfoot, which stood there confused, making screaming sound and take off like a full-speed locomotive. And in 5 seconds, it disappeared. There's more. When the local residents and my brother later in time returned to their homes and things settled down, my brother and other residents all got to talking, and my brother said there was at least 100 sightings during that time from locals. The Bigfoot went running across the road up there was smart enough to run downhill away from the eruption. RMSO responds, appreciate hearing about your brother and family sighting and encounter. Could not imagine what they were all going through, running from an erupting volcano, then observing this creature. Carl writes back, my brother was saying for years now that so many people saw them that week, and he heard from someone that it was the most sightings in those few days ever, meaning so many people in a small town at once. RMSO responds, do you happen to know what part of the volcano or town they were fleeing? Carl states, yes, It's Castle Rock. RMSO responds. We have been all over that side of the volcano on several Bigfoot expeditions over the years. Lahars, mudslides, etc. We're headed to Castle Rock that day. Scary day for people and animals and Bigfoot that would have been fleeing those affected areas during the eruption. I hope you all enjoyed a look at a Bigfoot sighting hotspot. Washington is the #1 place on the planet for Bigfoot sightings, and Mount St. Helens is at the top of that list. We're going to continue searching for Bigfoot in and around this volcano, other volcanoes in the area, and the state of Washington. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.